Good morning. I hope you liked the sunset that you would have just watched. That was yesterday's sunset. It was absolutely gorgeous, so I thought I would share it with you. I'm very much a sunset, look at the moon, the stars kind of a person, so you'll definitely see a lot of that if you subscribe to this channel. But I'm out in the cottage garden today, and basically I have a to-do list. So I thought we would spend a good sort of hour or so out here. The weather is it was quite cloudy this morning, but the sun is coming out now and it's still quite fresh. It's quite early in the morning, which is lovely. But yeah, I'm really keen to just tackle my to-do list. So what I have to do today, I need to tie up the pumpkin because the situation is still going on, the Jack and the Beanstalk situation. So I really want to tie that up around. So we're going to do that. I also want to cut off, I had a little look online and they said to actually remove some of these leaves here, like these lower leaves. So I want to prune off some of those. I also need to just prune off a few of the dead in the tomato. I want to plant some more kale seeds. One of the little spinaches didn't make it. I want to pull that out, and I want to pull out the cucumber that has sort of gone over. I also need to harvest. I've got a heap of snack capsicums to harvest, and I want to try and harvest those cucumbers there. And then I also want to get some compost and pop some compost on the citrus trees, but as well as just some of the more established vegetables. So I'd like to put a little bit of compost around the bottom of the pumpkin, the tomatoes, the spinach, probably the snack capsicum as well. So that is kind of my to-do list for this morning. I'm hoping to be able to tackle that all within the hour. The other thing I thought I would do is give you a little bit of an update on, I think I said a few videos ago that I would give you an update on the sort of propagation nursery. I've basically just been, when I've been cutting plants back and I've got the cuttings that have sort of just, come off, I've been popping them in dirt and watering them and seeing if they would grow. And I have had a fair bit of success with that, which I have shown you before. So I thought I'd give you a bit of an update to see how all the plants are going. So I'll give you an update on that. And yes, that's kind of the plan of action for today. We've had so much rain. You can see here for the rain from the rain gauge that we have not had rain for a couple of days now. So I'm definitely going to have to get out here this afternoon and water. That is a bit of a gardening hack. I'll give you this one. Get yourself a rain gauge. I cannot recommend it highly enough. This is just a really simple one. I think it was like $5 or something from the garden centre, and I've just affixed it to a piece of wood here. I find it saves time and it saves money and it saves water, basically. So, sometimes you don't know how much rain you've actually gotten if you're out of town or if it rains overnight. If you're away for the day, maybe you work, far from home, and you don't want to come home and water all your vegetables if you've actually had a sufficient amount of rain. Or the flip side of it is you might wake up in the morning and it's rained overnight and you've thought to yourself, oh no, like that's plenty of rain, I don't need to water. But when you check your range gauge, there's not a lot of water in there. So then you do water. So it's just, definitely a gardening hack of mine. If you have a little garden space, is to get yourself just a very cheap, easy rain gauge, but just so you can kind of judge your water levels as to whether or not you need to water. It will save you, as I said, time, money, and water. But yes, so let's get going. I won't procrastinate any further. Alright, so I think what we're going to do first is harvest the snack capsicums from here, and then we might actually pop in the kale seeds. I think we do those two things first, and then I can do some pruning, tie up the pumpkin, and then get the compost and that down. Alright, I think that sounds like a plan. So I'm going to harvest these snack capsicums now. Okay, first few jobs ticked off. I've got my little loot of snack capsicums here, and I've also planted the kale seedlings. So the first two jobs have now been ticked off. I'm going to go and get that jute ribbon and then let's tie up the pumpkin. So the pumpkin is tied up. It's growing so well. I actually am really happy with it growing along here. I think it just adds a bit of decoration to kind of this kitchen garden structure, which is lovely. And you can see here, I'm starting to get, I think I mentioned in a recent video, I'm starting to get like all the flowers, but from what I can see, they all appear to be, you can sort of see, and then like here, to me they look like they are male flowers, not female flowers yet. There's another little one there, but I've got quite a number of them. Another one there coming through, which is a very good sign, I think. So I might give it, I did a little bit of research online and they sort of said that if you're finding you're not getting any female flowers, you can actually take off some of the male flowers. But I think I might give it, you know, another couple of weeks just to see whether or not I naturally just will get female flowers. Maybe it's a little bit too soon, but pumpkin doing well. The strawberries in this pot here are also doing really well. You can see just under here, I've got my first little strawberry coming through, and I've got a number of flowers through there, which is great. That's sort of one variety here, and then over here is another variety. No flowers yet on that one, and then similar. There's sort of no flowers on either of the other two varieties as yet, which is not the end of the world. And that particular one in the this pot here, you would have seen I just actually moved it over. The pumpkin was blocking the sun, so that may not have been happy not getting that amount of sun. So I've just scooched it along a little bit. So another job done. What we might do now is start pruning. So I think what I'll do is prune off these bottom leaves here and take out some of these tomatoes, take out the one little spinach that didn't make it, the longevity spinach, as well as pull out the cucumber, and then kind of maybe just do a little bit of a weed as well while I'm at it. So let's get on with that task. So pruning is done. I've taken out both of the cucumbers. I did a little prune back on the longevity spinach just to try and keep the size in check. I pruned out a few of the dead leaves from the tomato, and I also took off the bottom leaves here from the pumpkin. Super interesting. I don't know if you saw it on camera, but when I was cutting off some of the leaves on here, the actual stem, when you cut it off, was just full of water, which was unexpected. When I cut it off, just all water basically just ran out of it all over my gloves, which was very interesting. I did not realize that the stems would be full of water. But there you go. Learned that today. All right, next thing I'm going to do is the composting, I think. So for sort of the composting, what I've done is I've got the Morpheus compost in this bucket, I've got normal potting mix in this bucket, and then I've got an empty bucket here. So the reason for the normal potting mix is the Morpheus is actually quite a rich compost. So I know when I got that, they recommended that we mix it with a normal sort of potting mix just to kind of dilute it a little bit so it wasn't too strong for the plants. So that's what this bucket is for. It'll be my mixing bucket. So I'll take sort of like a handful of that and a handful and then kind of mix it around. So I think what we might do first is we might start with the citrus trees actually. We'll kind of go that way and then work our way along to the vegetables. But yeah, so basically I'm just going to take one handful of this and a handful of this, pop it in, mix it through, and then just pop it around the base of the plant. So, last gardening job now ticked off. I've gone around, you would have seen, and just placed that combination of the Morpheus compost and a little bit of potting mix into all of the pots. I didn't put it obviously into any of the newer plants or like the little baby seedlings here, just it'll be too rich for them. But kind of the more established vegetables, I have topped up all of the soil there. Very, very happy with that. And that has actually been an hour in the garden, which was sort of my goal today, was to kind of get out here and tackle my to-do list within the hour. So I have done that. I'm very pleased. And I was thinking about how I mentioned earlier about my little gardening hack about installing a rain gauge and how helpful I find that, you know, that it saves time, money, water, that kind of thing. And so I thought, whilst we were talking gardening hacks, I might share a few kind of other, possibly little unusual ones. I did want to show you sort of a bit close up in here. I don't know if you can see this. These here are actually bricks. So cheap as chips, just normal standard bricks. And for my pot plants, what I'll often do is get different size bricks that are, again, really cheap. And I just pop them in the saucer here and I sit the pot on top of the brick. And what that means is that if the saucer has water in it, you can see this one here does have water in it, it lifts the pot up a little bit so that the pot itself isn't sitting in the water and that bottom layer of soil isn't really wet and the roots aren't sort of getting that soggy feet. I have found through personal experience that very few plants like to have wet feet. So using something like this, like bricks or planks of wood, something like that, just really cheap, easy, accessible things. If you place them in your saucer and then pop your pot on top, just ensure obviously your pot is stable so the pot doesn't fall over. That works an absolute treat, and it just gives you that little bit of separation. When you water your plant, obviously the saucer still catches the water, but your plant's not sitting in it. That's my second little gardening hack. And the other sort of on a similar vein, I'll actually take you over to the water feature and I'll show you what I've found there. Just as we make our way to the water feature, just to show you can see here all the compost there and under here, and then just over by the pumpkin. All these other little ones here are a little bit too young to withstand the richness of the Morpheus compost. So I've just come over to the water feature. It's just off at the moment. The sun is behind a cloud. Now this is probably a very niche kind of hack, but this here, I'll get a bit closer to it, is actually just a run-of-the-mill rubber doorstop. I'm pretty sure I can get a pack of 6 rubber doorstops for $2. They are one of the best gardening hacks. I use them to level things. So if you've got a pot that's on a bit of a slope, or this one over here is because the water feature is actually on a hill, and so the water wouldn't be level. So I actually use this as a bit of a leveler to kind of wedge under things. And obviously because it's a doorstop, it has that incline in the rubber, and it means you can either push it, you know, further in or not, like not as much out when you're trying to level things. So pots, in my case here, water features, anything like that. Such a cheap, easy way to level things out in the garden. Rubber is obviously super durable, and yeah, again, cheap as chips. And I buy them, I probably got like 3 or 4 packets of rubber doorstops at the moment in the potting shed because I use them all the time for leveling purposes. But so I thought I would share that little hack with you. That's yeah, probably quite a niche one, but really cost effective and does the trick. Now we've just come around to the potting shed sort of side of the garden, and I have actually shown this hack to you before, but it is one that I use every single day. So I think it warrants sharing again, and it's this here. So when I go to the garden centre and I buy plants, sometimes a plant will come into the garden centre and I may not know exactly where I'm going to plant it, or I might buy a few plants and then I don't get the chance to plant them in the next, 2 or 3 days after purchasing them. What I do is just obviously take them out of the car, bring them out here, and I have these really sort of deep large saucers, and I fill them, you can see here there's water in it. I fill them with a little tiny bit of water, and then I just place the pots here into the water, and the plants basically can self-water. They drink up what they need, and I will leave these in here for weeks. I'm going to pan over, and don't judge me for the mess, but these ones here you can see are in the saucer. They have been in there for months. So I think probably particularly those grasses, they've probably been in there for 2 months now, and they're happy, they're loving life. This area gets a bit of sun, so they're all getting sun, they're getting water. It's just, it takes the pressure off. Sometimes I found, if I went and I bought something at the garden centre, and maybe it's a Sunday and I get home and I don't have the time to plant them before the whole work week starts, I can just get my little saucer out, fill it with some water, and then place the plants in here, and they're fine till next weekend. They're fine for a few weeks if I don't get to them, if I get busy or I don't know where they're going to go, or maybe I have to, where it's going to be positioned, I've got to move another plant before it can go into that place. You get the gist. Anyway, this is just incredible. I also use this if I'm going away. These little saucers are incredible. So if I'm going away for a week or something like that, the plants that I have in pots, I will actually fill up their saucers like this so that they can self-water while I'm away. And that is one of my biggest hacks. That and the rubber door stops and the rain gauge is, incredible. Use all of those things all the time. So I just wanted to share that with you because it works an absolute wonder for me. And then while we're over this side, I thought I'd give you a little bit of an update on the little propagation nursery. So this side of the garden is kind of the potting shed, potting bench side, and it's kind of what I would affectionately call the nursery sort of side. It's where plants that need a little bit of extra care kind of go. So these are the 2 lavenders. If you've been following along for a little while, you'll know I had these around the sun deck side, and they struggled while I was away for about a month. But you can see they are bouncing back. They had quite a firm prune back, and they're doing really well. So I'll kind of let them go a little bit longer, and then I might move them out into more of a full sun position. That is just an aloe vera plant, so it just sits there for medicinal purposes. But what I wanted to show you were these. So this one and this one here are plants that I have basically just experimented with propagation. I will crouch down so you can get a better look. So this here, I was actually cutting back the main plant, and so when I was cutting it back, I cut off a branch, which is this branch here, and I literally have just filled a pot with dirt, popped the branch in, and have been watering it. And they're doing really well. All of this is all new growth. You can see here I've also got one of these little fellas propagating. I mean, they self-seed in the garden themselves, but these are really great. I'm a family member absolutely loves these, so I'm growing a few of these to pot up for them. But yeah, and then this here is the lace hydrangea. So again, I just cut off a branch, popped it into a pot with dirt, and I've been watering it, and look at this. All new leaves here. Super happy, loving life. And then if I flip around to the other side, similar, I've got these 2 here that I've propagated just from cuttings. And then this one here again, just from a cutting, and basically I actually had 2. One of them didn't make it, but this main one here has, and is doing, this is all new. It was literally like a little sort of stump there. Gosh, the sun's really come out now, apologies. You sort of can't see. It was sort of like just a little tiny stump, and all of this leaf is all new growth. And again, propagating another one of these. So I guess what I wanted to, the reason I'm wanting to share these with you is that propagating, I sometimes find when I look online, there's all of this stuff about propagating, and there's all these tools, and you need to put gels on the roots and all this kind of stuff. I haven't done any of that. I've just kind of just experimented. So if you have a little garden space and you are somebody who likes to experiment with your plants, then I cannot recommend trying your hand at propagating. I will tell you now, not all of them will make it. Some plants, it just doesn't work. The cutting that you put in there will kind of just rot and die off. But a lot of the time it does. And it's a lot of fun. It's easy, and it's a great way to kind of grow your own plants. So it's actually quite cost effective as well. They're sort of plants that you can, particularly if they're beautiful, you know, plants, and that you can gift them to people, you know, pot them up really lovely and then gift them, housewarming presents, you know, hostess gifts, those kinds of things. And I mean, you all know, again, if you've been following for a while, I do it inside all the time with the water planters. I basically just take cuttings and then we start them off and they grow, they get a root system. And then I kind of just, you know, from one plant, you get many. So I just thought I would share that with you. It's kind of my last little gardening hack. Just, yeah, if that's something you're interested in doing, have a go. If it fails, it fails. You know, they were cuttings that you were going to throw away anyway, so there's sort of no harm in it. And yeah, it's again a lot of fun and quite cost effective. If the plants that make it, as I said, then you can go out and plant them, and there's a lot of satisfaction in knowing that, you know, that's a plant that you just, you know, made from a cutting, or yeah, that's just, anyway, it's quite exciting. So I thought I would just share those ones with you because they're doing really well and I'm very pleased. All right, I may actually leave this video here now. I've tackled all of my gardening jobs first up this morning, so I'm super happy about that. I will kind of go through and clear up my mess here. But yeah, I'm absolutely over the moon that they're all done. I've been able to tick all those items off. Everything's looking really great. I mean, work in the garden is never done, but I like to kind of have a little plan for each day and just try and tick off as much as I can. So I hope you have enjoyed kind of spending this morning in the cottage garden with me, kind of coming along as I tackle all my little jobs. And I hope me sharing some of my little gardening hacks with you was helpful. If that's something that you like, please let me know. Let me know in the comments. I know some of you are incredible gardeners. If you have any gardening hacks that you would be willing to share, please share in the comments. I would love to know, and I would love to implement any additional gardening hacks that you have. All right. Enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.